Welcome to today's webinar where we're going to be reviewing the changes to the meeting sales, sports sales, lead, and responses. Thanks, Chris. My name is Kirsten Van Detta. I'm the CRM product manager here at Simpleview, and this is Chris Fierick, and he is our lead product engineer for CRM. So most likely, if anything you're using in the CRM, this guy helped build it. And then we have Sam Brace.
Hey guys.
Over here helping us run this session. So today we're going to be going through all of the changes. You may have seen the simple feed where we reviewed what those changes are going to be, give you a general overview of what's coming, why we did these, and then cover some of the frequently asked questions that we'll get. Of course, I'm going to leave some time for you guys to give us questions and send those over, and then Sam will help us monitor those as we go through. So let's get started. So the first thing is what we mean by the sales lead and response enhancements is that we have, this is the agenda. So we'll do an overview, go through everything really that was in the simple feed. So the reason we made some of these changes is because one, you guys have asked for them for a very long time. And two, it's just a general industry workflow for the way that RFPs are collected and managed in some other systems. And so we wanted to try to match some of those and give you guys the flexibility that you were asking for in managing your lead dates. So
before we move forward to that, Kirsten, let's launch a quick poll.
Oh, okay.
And this will help them just to get the feel of it. We're going to be launching a few polls throughout this.
Okay.
So we want to find out, did you guys read the associated Simple Feed article that we're going to be covering here today before today's webinar? So we're going to launch it on the screen, and you should see three choices here, guys. It's either going to be yes, no, or what is a Simple Feed. Notice it does say in parentheses, I am being serious, and I do not know. So if we have any Simpleview employees that think they're being funny, don't put it in. All right, so let's get the poll going, and we're going to allow everybody to vote. And let's close the poll in 3, 2, 1, and closed. All right, so 60% of people said they have not read this before, so this is enlightening information.
I should probably back
up. Interestingly enough, 15% of people that voted actually said they don't know what a simple feed is.
Okay.
So if we want to take the time when we show off the article to also show how you can get access to it, that'd be great.
We can do that. So since most of you did not see the simple feed, and I will just say real quick, the simple feed is what you would see in your CRM. We also put it in the knowledge base. And it's a way for us to alert you and let you know things that we've added to the system, changes that will be coming down the pipe. We are a SaaS platform. That means software as a service. So we constantly have ongoing R&D, research and development, going for the product itself. So when we make updates, we want to let you guys know when things are coming, so you can prepare for those, especially as if you are a CRM administrator. I know a lot of you take the time to put those simple feeds together and get those out also for your staff. So that's what a simple feed is for this one, and I'll show you where it is in just a minute, but this one is in the knowledge base right now, and there's also a note in your CRM. But it goes through all of the changes, the planned changes that we have for lead and response workflow. The lead and response workflow, what I mean by that is the way that you manage dates on your lead, the way that you manage your blocks, the way that your partners can submit their responses, and the way that you manage and filter their responses to send to the planner if you do that. And so we'll be going through all of those changes in this session. So the enhancements that we've added, this is just a high-level overview, but I will be diving in and giving you a demo of what these are. The first is you will have the ability to enter unlimited number of meeting dates on your leads now. This was previously limited to 3. You had the primary dates and 2 alternates. You now have unlimited alternates, but you do still have a primary designation. You also have the ability to have planners tell you they're flexible with their dates and then collect flexible dates from your partners. So very similarly to DMAI's Empowerment RFP, where the planner can say that they can accept flexible dates or their dates are flexible, now we'll allow partners to submit flexible dates And what I mean by that is dates outside of any of the meeting dates you requested. And we'll get into more of that in a minute. You can also select your new preferred date without having to edit dates. So this is just a one click. You'll set it as primary, it flips to primary, and we don't invalidate any more responses. So invalid responses also go away. From our research, we found from both your input and hoteliers that responses to specific date sets don't necessarily mean if the date changes, the preferred date changes, that those are invalid. Those are still valid for that date range, and so we want to leave those alone. But in doing so, we want to make sure also that you have the ability to filter dates as you need for packaging up those responses. So Chris and I are working on adding some more filters right now to allow you to choose pursuing yes or no, select the date ranges that you want for which responses you want to pull and things like that. And then lastly, in speaking to some of the hoteliers and venues that do submit responses, we found that a lot of times what they have is, especially if the lead is pretty far out, the bid attachment they do is the same across all dates because they may only include specific information for peak or rate or something like that, but not specific to each date range that you've requested. And then also some of the yes, we're pursuing this. This is the information for this lead. Here's our comment to the planner. That can be duplicated across responses and then just maybe tweaked a bit. And so we wanted to give them the option to be able to copy, and you'll see what that looks like too once we get into the system. Did we have any other polls before I move through this?
You're doing great.
All right. So what does this mean for you right now? We understand this is a pretty significant change for everybody, and even though it's something that you guys want, it is a change and it'll take work on both sides. So what we've done, and is not something we normally do, but because of how significant this is, we have rolled out these changes onto your development server. Excuse me. Your development server is where Simpleview staff will often go to test things. If you have a customization or any data work, we'll process it there first so that we're not messing with your live CRM. And so this is available to you as well for testing. And anytime you want to test a product or a feature, you can always do it in your development server. Everyone has access to the development server if you have access to your live server. Server meaning CRM. So you can log in at, and I think it's on the next one, right? There it is. So we have Monterey County here. So your dev server URL or your dev CRM URL is the same as your live CRM URL, except it has .dev in between your name and .simpleviewcrm.com. So just like it's shown here.
So we have a poll.
We have a poll.
So we want to find out if what Kirsten just said is super enlightening. Is there a situation where you knew that you had a development Simpleview CRM before today's webinar? Did you know this even existed? Just fill out a quick yes or no on the screen. It's okay if you say no. It's not like you're going to be scolded for not knowing this. We just want to see if this is information that everybody knew or if this is something that we need to be talking about more and more. So let us know. Please vote on the screen, and we'll close the poll in 3 seconds. And closed. 54% of people did not know what you just told them.
All right. So half of you. Well, now you know. Knowing's half the battle. This is also, again, in the simple feed. So if you forget what the URL is, you can always grab it out of there and test your heart away. So the reason we're doing this is just to make sure, let me back up. So your development CRM is fully functional. What that means is if you pull a list out of that and you try to email or you're testing emailing anyone, it will go out. So be careful with that. Running queries, changing data, using any of the features in there, you're not going to break anything. You can't hurt anything. And if you need your live data again, you can request your analyst to run what we call a downsync. And essentially that's copying your data from live to dev. We try not to do that too often, especially as we're working through these changes, because that means we also have to re-implement the changes, but you can request that. So the reason we're doing this is to allow you to get accustomed to the new changes, make sure that you're comfortable with it, and especially if you're a CRM administrator and you manage the training for your staff and things like that, we wanted to give you guys time to have everyone adjust to this new workflow. And then we had in the simple feed that we anticipated pushing the upgrades live by April 10th. So what this means for you is some of the things that we have to look at when we do something this large is we have to look at all the clients who might have customizations that will break when we push core code. And if you're not sure what that means is, again, because we are a SaaS platform, I don't know why suddenly my throat is always clearing every 5 seconds. I apologize. Because we are a SaaS platform, we do push core updates all the time. You probably have heard the word core. And what that means is that's a software update that everyone gets that's ongoing, and it's part of your licensing agreement. And so your licensing fees every year help pay for the R&D that we put into the system. So new feature sets you get, like the extranet image carousel, the new batch referral tool in consumer group, and all of those types of things come from R&D. If you've chosen to customize, and some of you might have had to do that if the workflow didn't work for you or if we couldn't get to it fast enough for you, but if you have customizations that possibly could conflict, we needed to review those and make sure that we have everyone's addressed before we push this live. We, of course, don't want to break everyone. But so with that being said, that means all of the review work we've done thus far, the CRM analysts and CRM developers on the operations team are working through those. And you will receive a communication from your analyst between, I think, so now we're in late February. So if you haven't heard from them yet, let's call it late February to early March. They'll be sending you a note to discuss any of those customizations you might want to review. And keep in mind the updates we made may make your customizations moot. You may not need them anymore. They may have been processing based on the old setup, and so the new setup just may not require them. So some of you may just end up removing them altogether.
So before we move on to what these actually are, final poll before we get into you going deep into this. So we want to check to see, have you guys actually done some of the work that Kirsten recommended that you do? So have you logged into your development CRM at this point to review the meeting sales and sports sales lead and response enhancements before today's webinar? Yes or no? If you have, prepare to get sent gold stars. If you haven't, it's okay, but no gold star.
I'm going to guess at least 54% haven't.
Mm.
Those are the ones that didn't know they had a death
I like the conservative guess. All right, we're closing the poll in 3 seconds. Make sure to get your votes in, guys. And 88% have not. So this means we highly recommend that you start doing this work. Don't wait for your analyst. Go in there, start reviewing it. Based on the information that Kirsten should share, this should be information that will help you in your reviews.
Right. And so with this as well, we also have, as I go through this, you'll be able to see the things that we need to have you review. So this next part is pretty important. Now we do have a deck for it. What I'm probably going to do is pop off the deck and go through a full demo. But I will start with add unlimited meeting dates. So let me see here. So I just click on this guy, right? Yes, I do. This probably looks a little small. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So my Simpleview test RFP. So let's take a look at this real quick. So the first thing is on the lead forms, we have added the ability to do unlimited meeting dates. So I'm going to take this existing lead and first scroll down to the detail for you. So you'll see here, rather than having preferred alternate 1 and alternate 2, we have unlimited alternates, and then we have primary highlighted, so you can have as many dates as you'd like. We also show you these these 3 fields, which I will go into more detail in the edit form. So let me pop back up here. So the way that this works, scrolling, sorry to make you dizzy, is we have the primary set here. Now remember I said it was a one-click switch to go from alternate to primary now. So it looks exactly like this. It will highlight and show you that you've moved your dates. If you happen to grab a date set that is shorter than, and I don't know if I have any, there we go, that's shorter than what the original primary block was, which is down here in the requested block, all the way down here, we'll give you a little alert that says, hey, we're going to shave off a day or 2 on the end, just so you know. What's really cool about how we made these changes, though, is Chris is a rock star, and you no longer need migrate room block. And that's because even if you change these dates up here and you flip them around, we're going to always append your start day of the original room block you had in there. So migrate is no longer required, and messing with dates up here is not going to make you lose your room block anywhere. So let's look at adding multiple dates. When I click add new date, first of all, let's look at this. So primary is 25 to 29. If I click add new date, here's another thing that's really great is if I do February 23rd, you'll see this automatically appends my end date for me based on the number of days my meeting days have already spanned. Since in our research, most meeting days don't change depending on alternate days, it's either a two-day meeting or not, we did this. That doesn't mean you can't change it. If you want to, you can change it. Click save date. You can also roll through as many of those as you would like with save and new date. Did Dan bring me that?
Yeah. I thought he was coming in here.
Okay. So apparently someone thinks I need water, so I'm going to drink some. So that's the meeting date changes. Now you'll notice that we don't have an edit here. And I will explain why. I'm trying to do this in as little technical a term as I can. You don't need edit. If you have, for example, the 20th to the 25th, and you want to change it to the 20th to the 27th, just remove it and add a new date set. These are no longer tied specifically to responses, which is why one of the reasons we can do the flexible dates and no longer invalidate responses, but also still show you who has responded to specific meeting dates or not. It is magical. If that's what you're thinking, it actually is magical. So down here, this is what we've done. Now, working with the user group and reviewing these changes, one of the things we didn't realize is how difficult it might be for you guys to onboard new staff and explain the difference between meeting dates and block dates. And so what we've done here is tried to make a really clear differentiation between meeting dates and block dates. So down here you'll see your block start and end is no longer editable. We autofill that with the meeting dates and then append dates post-event and pre-event based on what you put in shoulder days before or after. This also allows us to fill all of your alternate blocks before. You may not have realized it, but previously the way the system worked is everything was on the back end. So we were calculating what your shoulder days before and after were for all of your alternate dates and displaying those on the extranet. This way you can see what they are because you're setting them yourself. So in this case we have a number 2 shoulder days before and the number of shoulder days after is 0. So this is going to lop these off and then we can put in our requested dates. Oops, did I type that in? Oh, numlock. And then that will span the dates. So again, we don't need migrate room block because watch this. So we have 123 here based on our shoulder day setting. If I come up here, let's grab 2-3. I change it to 2-3 to 2-8. Scroll back down. Now here we have 2-1 to 2-8 based on our shoulder days, and we didn't lose any of our block. So before I go any further, does anyone have any questions in there so far?
Great segue.
Oh.
So we had 2. And actually, I just want to point out a few comments. Some people are calling Chris magical, wizard.
He is.
So I'm glad that, do you feel like you're magical? Do you feel like you're a wizard?
He does.
Oh, yeah.
He has a cape.
No.
Good. So 2 questions that have come up. First, will this program work for multiple dates? So as an example, let's say if a group wants to come January 25th through the 29th and February 3rd through the 8th.
So a group is, oh, I see what you're saying. That's more like a series lead. So you still have to have a preferred on here. If you have 2 preferreds, meaning they're coming both date sets, you would have to do the span and then change the room nights, if that makes sense. So your span would end up being from whatever the first date was you said until the end date. But then down here you would edit the number of room nights not to be 30, but they would be 4 or whatever that was for the total.
Great answer to that. Great question. So, second question that we do have, and then we're able to keep moving forward,
okay,
is will the recipient of the lead be able to see all the alternate dates entered? I was taught that the recipient is not able to see all the alternate date fields, and all alternate dates need to be physically typed into the comments box.
I assume we're talking about on the extranet, the recipient being the hotel. In that case, the hotel can see when they respond to an alternate date, they can see the entire alternate block. And again, we were adding shoulders based on calculations being done on the back end before. Now we're adding shoulders here in the front end where you can control them. So if your partners are currently entering alternate information into, say, a comments field, that is not necessary. They will still see the alternate block.
Excellent. We actually have 2 more questions that have come up.
All right, let's do it.
So, will we need to change leads that are already in a definite status?
Will you need to change leads that are already in it? I think you're talking about I think what the user's asking is, what about my existing leads?
Exactly.
Okay, so existing leads, this will apply to existing leads. Now, some of the things we've found as we've gone through this and we've reviewed customizations and data is that, for example, if you have meeting dates set up here, and what you've done is maybe the planner came back and said, you know what, we actually don't want February or January, we're going to go with October. What we are seeing in some cases is the user has gone back in and changed only the block to October. And so responses are for October, but the meeting dates don't read an October date anywhere. So in situations like that, you may see some, the shoulder days are showing -25 before and 10 after if your block is completely outside of your meeting dates. And so we are working on how to address those before we push this live to make sure, but your existing information, your data will be taken care of when this goes live. So you won't have to worry about going in and rechanging anything or addressing anything as you are processing older leads. Correct? Correct.
We're getting 3 corrects, guys. So we're feeling good. Last question. Promise. Are you planning on updating the meeting profile so shoulder dates and meeting days number are in the profile?
The profile. Say that one more time.
Are you planning on updating the meeting profile so shoulder dates and meeting days are in the profile?
Oh, interesting. So these same fields would be available for tracking how many shoulder days there generally are, including the meeting days. Right now, I believe on the profile, most of you track the preferred meeting pattern. Then the actual dates would be in the lead, right? I don't think we track. So the histories would have the dates, and maybe we do add shoulder into histories, but the profile is more of a general pattern than it is specific dates.
Perfect. We are good for questions.
All right.
Proceed.
Plugging along. So what you'll also notice is there's a new field here called Allow Responses to Custom Dates. And this is what we're talking about with the flexibility for planners receiving bids that are outside of the requested meeting dates. You guys do this all day long, right? So you know sometimes planners are okay with getting different bids. Maybe it gets them better cost. Something works out better for them. Maybe they get more commitments, more in-kinds, things like that. So what we've done is, first of all, this field will only show up if you ask your analyst to turn it on for you. If you are not wanting to accept custom response dates, that's okay. You don't have to have it on. If you do have us turn it on, you can tell us how you would like it defaulted, whether that's to yes or no. And so if it's to yes, what that means is on the extranet side, and once I pop over to the extranet, you'll see, I guess I actually should have done that beforehand. Forgive me for just 1 second. Let me log in as Chris Ferrick here so I can show you. So when they get to the extranet side, they will see a button that says New Custom Date. Otherwise, if that's off, they won't see that button, and they'll be able to respond to each of the date sets as we noted before. So just 1 second, almost loaded. Or not, to the login as. Sometimes that takes a minute for us to boot up in Labs. So let me switch back over to meeting sales while we wait for that. And go back to our Simpleview test RFP. Is it going to load for me? Still doesn't want to load. Maybe I should just log in. Oh, sorry. It is really hard to type with all of you watching me right now. All right, so we're going to re-init that real quick. So we'll go back to that. Let me get back on the lead. So what that means is for example, we have all of these date sets here, but if you have this allow responses to custom dates set to yes, then your partners will see add custom date sets. We have some feedback that came back from that we may address as far as how to make sure partners understand to respond to existing date sets versus clicking the big blue button. So there's some of that we might take a look at. But essentially, those are the main changes to the lead form itself. Again, so you have unlimited meeting dates, one click set as primary, doing shoulder days before and after rather than editing what the requested block is, and you don't lose your rooms if you don't use migrate room block. Yes, sir.
Do clients have a dev extranet?
Yeah.
Yep. The server's not running too well right now, it seems, but yes, they do. Both versions. So if you're on the new extranet or the old extranet, you have a dev version of both.
How do they get to it?
Basically the same URL schema
Okay.
as what we have in the deck with putting dev in front of Simpleview CRM. The newer extranet is a little bit different, so you can reach out to your analyst for that one. It's a CRM-dev-1 is actually the instead of just dev is what you put in there. So
got it. And then question also is that they are assuming, what's more of a comment, but are they correct? They assume that any responses they would be entering would only populate in the dev CRM?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. Correct. But do make sure that any communications you send, if you select partners, it will send out an email to those partners. So if you're trying to test sending a lead, be sure to set yourself up as a partner. Send it to yourself.
Perfect. That answers the questions that are out there, guys. Thank you.
I don't know why that's not coming up. We can't get the extra. That's why it's labs, because we're always working on it. I'm not sure, but we have screenshots actually, and Chris will be right back. He's going to go do magic. So those are the lead changes. Let me back up out of this and show you some of the response changes. I think you guys are going to be excited about the response changes. The feedback we've had from the user group in reviewing these thus far has been positive, so I think you will like this. So the first thing is when you're in the CRM and you have to add a new response for any property, when you click add new response, you'll notice a different setup. So first of all, we get the requested rooms based on the primary, and then we have shoulder start and end still showing up here. But here's where it gets cool, right? So Simpleview Inc., now we can see, depending on the property we select, all of the different date sets that we've requested they respond to, whether or not they've responded to them. We can update their response or respond on their behalf if we want. And you can roll through these as you go, so almost like a save and new. So there's no reason to go back to the response grid to finish all of your response updates. You can do them all from one screen. Additionally, if there was another property here, I could select that one and roll through those as well. So no more going back to the grid. Someone had asked during user group if we could add the ability to clone responses or copy paste essentially between responses. We don't have that in the CRM right now, but I do have that on my wish list. And back out here. So we really need the extranet to pop up. Let me see if I can pull the picture here. Scroll through this real quick. Sorry guys, just 1 second. We have it. Try it again. Well, here we go. I found the slide. So if the custom date sets is on, here's the new custom date response. And Chris is saying I could probably use this now, so we'll go ahead and re-init. And we'll log in as Chris.
Wait, you know my password, Kirsten? Oh no.
Maybe.
I gotta change it.
Maybe.
Well, when you put it out through Twitter.
All right, so let's pop down here to the lead that we were just on, Simpleview Test RFP. So this is what it looks like for your hoteliers now. And I am in Extranet 4. We did make these changes in Extranet 3 as well. So just because I'm not showing 3 doesn't mean you don't have these as well. So if you have not upgraded yet, you do still get this. But here's what it looks like now. So I have the highlighted preferred date. You'll notice that no longer do we show alternate 1, alternate 2. Anything is alternate. If you consider too that if you had 14 dates in here, you would have to say alternate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we just don't do the dates anymore, or excuse me, the designations for 1 and 2. You will be able to put in all of the alternates. Anything they've entered as a custom date will read custom for them. And so they'll be able to see that there. And then they can, so I guess this lead is now passed. Let me move this. What is today? The 22nd. So let's move that to the 25th. And go to responses. There we go. So if I want to add a response for the preferred date, I can click this, go in and add my response. The response form itself has not changed. Everything they have on the response form is the same. They will see everything they had before. So there's no new partner training necessarily that you need to do here. The only thing that's really changed for them significantly is this really cool feature, which is copy. So this copy response here is what they have now. And what they'll do is when they click that, they can select which meeting date they want to copy that particular response to. Excuse me. Or if they want to copy it to a new custom date, they can do that as well. Just click in here and enter that. So I'll select a new date. And you'll see when I do copy response, and I didn't have that other one filled out completely, but it would bring over the comments, the rate range, including the file attachment, which was one of the biggest things for the hoteliers that we talked to, is that having to reattach that file attachment every time was not their favorite thing in the world. And a lot of times that made it so they didn't respond to all of the alternates, because technically that bid document was the same for all. And so you weren't getting thorough information there either for each of those responses. So now all that information comes over, and that's including UDFs. So these were filled in the one that I copied, and that came over for me.
The only other change, if you want to back up there and just show them the response form again, and we need to lighten up the coloring, I can tell a little bit, but we are marking the shoulder days that they're responding to, so at least they know what days are actually shoulder days. So you can see those first 2 are actually the shoulder days, so they can see when they kind of hover over them. They'll know, hey, here's the shoulder days. On this screen, it looks a little too washed out. It looks like you might not be able to enter those numbers, so I need to adjust that a little bit. But we wanted to at least let them know that these are the shoulder days that they're responding to. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a good question that came in around citywide bids. So the person asked, if we're having a bid for multiple years, should we use one lead but different dates for each year? Would that be an example of how to use the multiple dates?
If you have a citywide lead that you can only win 1 out of those 3 years, then you would use the same lead. If you could possibly win more than a single year in there, you want to have separate leads, because that means you won that business each year. So in an instance like rotating association business, I know a lot of tier 1 cities have that, and our international clients have that. If you can only win 1 of the 5 years that it's out to bid, then you would put all 5 years onto that one lead, and you would select the preferred one or the primary one as the one that you won. If you, however, again, can win multiple years, then technically that needs to go in as an individual lead.
Other question that has come in, is there a way to designate which alternate dates are prioritized over other alternate dates the planner may like less?
There isn't currently. I believe that it sorts in descending order. So from your primary date, it will sort in descending order with the rest of the alternate dates.
I would say just kind of add comments in there if that is the case, or if that happens a lot, let us know and we can try and add some kind of prioritization in there. But at this time, there's not.
Excellent. Good teamwork, guys. Okay, last question, and then we can keep going forward. So let's say a hotel provides the same attachment for 6 dates. Will that attachment show up 6 times in the lead?
It will show up on all of the responses they submit. So when you go to do zip attachments, yes, it will be there all 6 times. All right, cool. So let me see here. We have, I think I accidentally click Chrome. For some reason, it just, there we go. Oh, it flipped out. There we go. So those are the bulk of the changes. And let me just make sure I got everything. New copy feature, we got that. Multiple responses in the same window. Okay, let's go back real quick because there's one last thing I need to show you. So down in the responses tab, you'll notice we have a new button because we didn't have enough buttons. But why there is a new button instead of us altering the existing buttons is a couple of things. So first of all, we have several requests from you guys over the years to be able to filter your responses a little better. You want to be able to choose only those that have responded yes. You might want to choose just specific date sets, especially as we're moving into this ability to put in custom dates and things like that. The planner doesn't want to get everything. If they come down to 3 dates and they just want to see what the bids are for those, you guys needed to be able to pull those and filter them. So what we wanted to do originally was go through and add filters for each of these options. But what we found is you guys are customized on these buttons quite a bit. And so rather than break everyone, let you guys keep what you have there already, but add a new option to do filtered response actions. So this is still in the works. Chris has the first set of filters here. We'll be adding one for yes, no, and I think there's one more filter set that we've been requested for or have had requested. But what you can do is essentially you can select preferred date and custom date, and then these date filters will apply to any of the other functions that you push in these buttons. So you'll only get specific response attachments. You can see who's missing responses for those specific dates. And if you select them all, you can see, I think on the missing responses button, actually, you can see anyone who hasn't responded to any of them, right?
Correct.
Let me scroll down here really quick. So this particular button, I'm going to let you talk.
So our concept of missing responses has changed a bit. The missing responses used to look kind of across the 3 date sets and say, hey, you responded to this date set, this date set, this date set. Now you can respond to any of those date sets, basically, and we need to only show you the ones that have not responded at all, because at any point in time the date they responded to could become the preferred date that you actually selected. So we didn't want to show that this property had not responded to this date set if that was actually the preferred date set that gets selected,
right,
when all is said and done. So the concept of missing responses has changed a bit. If they've put in any response to any date set, they have responded.
So hence using the filtered option now if you want to see who hasn't responded to specific date sets. Yes, Sam.
We have 2 good questions.
I'm ready.
Okay. First, can you get the pursue button to not default to anything? Many forget to select yes, but respond as yes. Filter would show no.
Certainly. Yeah, actually a lot of clients have had that updated. Just put in a ticket with your analyst and they can take care of that for you.
Great answer. Second question, will these changes apply to service requests?
Not at this time. We're starting with a lead form, and you guys will see as you go through it. It's quite a big update, and so we want to take little bites at a time, right? Eat the elephant, take a little bite. At some point, if everyone shows interest in this being in service requests, we can evaluate that at that point.
Excellent. Proceed.
All right. So this takes us to our frequently asked, oh, no, it doesn't. I lied. It takes us to the RFP form. So one of the biggest reasons that we wanted to do this is working with DMAI and some other vendors in the industry. We know that planners want to be able to submit all of these flexible dates and be able to say, submit multiple dates and then be able to say that they'd like to do it flexibly. If you were on the Meeting Sales Product Community webinar, we also talked a little bit about how to enhance the RFP. I don't know if everyone saw it, but there were some articles recently, I believe it was meetingsnet.com, where they talked about, the RFP is dying, it's painful, it's long, it's a hard process. And so with this update, we did not update the RFP module that Simpleview holds currently for a few different reasons. One, first and foremost, being that most of you are customized on your RFP form. And so because that is public facing, we didn't want to roll something out that would stress you guys out about what's showing on the web or break your form. But it is something we know that planners will want, that you guys will want, and we're looking at the RFP sort of ecosystem as a whole. So how can we make it easier for a planner? If they're with someone like Helms Briscoe that always has a specific bid form they have to use, is filling out a long form really the best use of their time across multiple DMO sites, possibly on Cvent and other sites? So just trying to clean that up as a whole. So we'll be addressing that more. If you're coming to Summit and you see me there and you have some RFP insight, please come up and talk to me. That's my job. That's what I do, is listen to you guys. So just to reiterate, your RFP forms have not been touched, and they won't be with this update. So our next thing that we want to go through is just frequently asked questions. So also, if you've been holding your questions, now is a good time to type those in there. But want to make sure that I get most of these things covered. The FAQs are in the simple feed. So again, in the knowledge base article, you can read through all of these. These are all here. But the first thing is, why did we make these updates? Why are we doing this right now? And it is because you guys have asked repeatedly for some of these updates. It is because we're looking at the RFP ecosystem as a whole. And we want to continue to innovate and help on the technology side with the RFP response workflow for you guys. So overall, that's why we're doing this. Bang for your buck. That's why we're doing it. How is it going to affect any of your integrations? We have looked at all of the integrations that we currently have that are touched by leads or responses. Those include Mint, DMAI's Mint integration, the Meeting Broker integration, the Empowerment RFP. Is there another one? I feel like I might be missing one.
I'm sure there are.
Bidbook is one. There might be one more. Whatever I remember after this, I will put in form. But we have reviewed all of those to make sure that those do not break if you guys are using those. Keep in mind that each of these systems, for example, Meeting Broker may not accept unlimited dates. And if they don't, then we still have to work within their bounds in their system until they do. So if you have a Meeting Broker integration and Meeting Broker only accepts 3 dates, we're only going to send 3 dates. So some of these where Simpleview is having to work with other vendors, and I should say get to work with other vendors and do these integrations. Just be mindful that our systems may be a little bit different. So with these changes as we move towards how DMAI works and other vendors in the industry, there still may be other vendors that don't work that way yet. And so there may be some nuances there, but those have all been addressed. The next question is, how will I know if I have customizations that will affect this update? We have been extremely proactive on this side. The CRM operations team, aside from getting ready for Summit and doing their full-time day jobs right now, they are also busy reviewing all of your customizations to see if they're going to break. And so that's what I was alluding to in the beginning of the webinar, is that they might be reaching out to you. So if you have customizations, they're going to let you know. You may think you have customizations. You may be concerned about the customizations. That's okay for you to reach out, but I promise they are working proactively through it, and you will be hearing from them if they have anything that they're concerned about. I do want to just say real quick, the word customization has a weird connotation. Some of the things that are technically customizations really are configurations. So if you have updates on or configurations on your lead form where you've had certain fields required and things like that, those are not the items that we are concerned with. So if you know you have those, don't stress out over that too much. How will it affect your customizations? So we talked a little bit about that before. That is, some of your customizations may be moot at this point, and we'll remove them for you. I do want to say that the updates that we have made do not touch your contract blocks, your pickup blocks, or other portions of the lead. This is specifically responses, requested block, and meeting dates. So the customizations you have would have to affect one of those files we've updated. And this will be a conversation that you have with your analyst to determine if you want to keep those and have them built. I will say this, if you're in Extranet 3, and you're trying to decide if you want to keep your customizations that you have in Extranet 3, but you're possibly moving to Extranet 4 in the near future, it might be better for you to have some of those customizations removed in the interim. That will save you time. It saves Simpleview time, and all around then as they move to Extranet 4, some of those customizations you had before in 3 may not need to be carried to Extranet 4. Extranet 4 is an extremely robust platform, and so some of those things you had you may not need. Will this affect my reports? It could, possibly. If you have bureau reports or custom reports that are querying, meaning one of your filters is alternate 1 or alternate 2, it's possible that that could affect your reports. If you're just displaying them, it should not be a problem. But because alternate 1 and alternate 2 are eventually going away, if you're querying on those, that is going to create a problem. Did you want to add anything to that? Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Will this affect my templates? It could possibly. Again, if you have a special tag that is querying, meaning the filter criteria on that is looking at alternate 1 or alternate 2, it is possible. Also, if you have your templates displaying from Field Picker alternate 1 or alternate 2 on your lead form templates, then you may need to address those because, again, alternate 1 and alternate 2 are going away. So with those, we will have a special tag. If you don't know what that is something that we can insert into your templates that is a core tag, and it allows us to run a query within your template in order to display specific information based on criteria. And so we will have one of those in core that your analyst can provide to you, and we'll have those updated in any templates that will be affected. Will you have a chance to review this and train your staff before it goes live? That's one of the biggest reasons we've put it on your development server or your development CRM prior to it going live. And April 10th, that gives us, what does that give us now, Sam? Like 6 weeks?
Yeah,
a little bit more than that. So that gives you some time to get acclimated to the changes, make sure your staff understands what's there now, and also give us feedback. If you have anything that you think could be added that might enhance the update that we've made, we're always accepting that information. Can you opt out of the update?
No.
Sam says no.
No.
All done. Thanks for joining us. No, you can't. Because, again, our platform is software as a service, and it is extremely beneficial to have it that way because all of the R&D that goes into this system, you all get with your licensing fee. So you don't have to pay to have this particular update added to your system. We've done it so that it's a core implementation across the board. And in order to preserve the system integrity for everyone, we do have to push these updates out for everybody. And that's why some of these options we've made configurable. So for example, if you don't want to accept flexible responses from your hotels, you don't need to. It's a global, we'll keep it off for you. But everybody does have to get the updates.
Excellent. So let's start addressing some of the community questions that have come in.
Awesome.
Okay, so first one that came in, for the new missing responses, when you send a new communication using the no response tab, how will that email send?
Oh, that's an excellent question. We were just looking at that. Let me flip back over here so I can frame that for everyone who is here. So this user is talking about under the new communication tab on a lead, there's a use no response button. And that particular one we were reviewing, and I honestly can't remember where we ended up with
this
that.
one is the exact same kind of logic. No response now means they have not responded at all. So if they responded to any one of those dates or custom dates, if they had a response on this lead at all for that property, they will not show up here. If they have not responded at all, they will show up when you click this one.
And then we talked about possibly in the future adding something to say use no response by date or something
Correct.
like that.
So to be able to kind of filter and say, kind of with our filtered response actions as well, select each kind of date itself and say, hey, they haven't responded to this date set. And
Right.
then you can target those people. So that may or may not make it with phase 1 release. I'm not sure.
But we know about it. We know about it.
Next question that came in, when pursuing no, can the required fields be made no longer mandatory?
When pursuing no, that sounds very familiar, like a wish list ticket. So comments, I think comments were required because they wanted to know why they're not pursuing it. So I'm guessing the user's saying they don't care why they're not pursuing it. Okay. We do have a wish list ticket for that. And generally what I do before I implement anything is do a little research with the user group, make sure that I have the use cases so that we have that covered. So I know we have a wish list ticket for that. So I'll have to look and see if we can do that.
Excellent. Next question. The option to allow hotels to enter optional dates. Can we make this a mandatory field? And then they clarified, can our bureau make this a mandatory field?
Can your bureau read that again?
The option to allow hotels to enter optional dates. Can the bureau make this a mandatory field?
Yeah, I guess they would have to do a configuration though to make it not have anything selected. Allow responses to custom dates.
So the actual checkbox on the lead form,
I think
about?
so, yeah.
We didn't make it required in core because it is kind of behind a configuration setting. So if you reach out to your CRM analyst and you want that configuration enabled and you also want it to be made mandatory, the support developer can put in some additional configuration setting in code to make that happen. So just like most of our other, required or non-required core fields, right? Same kind of update for that one.
So once again, we have some Chris Spierick fanboys here on the call.
Yay!
So does Chris own a wizard hat? If not, does he want to own a wizard hat to go with his cape?
He does, and he wants a big C on it.
All right, asked and answered. All right, next question. Maybe we've already discussed this. I don't think we have. Will there be a section to fill out rebates and commissionable rates when sending out a lead?
Yeah, so most of you do that in UDFs actually. So you can add response UDFs to fill those out or have those display, So what that looks like actually is so if you have a CRM administrator, and so if this question actually is coming from anyone who's not an administrator, they can go into admin and select responses and add as many UDFs as they would like. And so that's where most clients put the commissionable rates and rebates and things like that to collect in responses.
Excellent. Okay, question about reports. If we have several reports using preferred meeting start date as criteria, what would replace that field?
Nothing. It will stay the exact same.
Yes.
So we recognize that most people have those reports. And so we are going to be backfilling those with whatever dates that you mark as preferred on the lead. So those will be currently set the same way when this releases, and any new leads you create after this releases, they will be the exact same way. So no changes will be needed for those.
And then last question that we've gotten so far. So if you have more, guys, make sure to be typing into your chat field so we can address them. The last question we've received at this point, could you leave Alt 1 and Alt 2 and just add additional dates below that?
On the lead form? We could, but I feel like when we were discussing this, actually, let me get back to the lead form. When we were discussing this, doing the sort of a priority, alternate 1, alternate 2, and then the rest going below them, is not how some of the other systems work. And so what we're trying to do is align more with the industry and how those work. And so we did remove alternate 1 and alternate 2. That's not to say we couldn't add it. I think we would just need to do some more research on that to see if that's really what's needed going forward.
Excellent. So at this point, I think we've addressed all the questions that have been coming through. So we want to launch a quick poll.
Okay.
So based on everything that Kirsten has eloquently told us, how do you feel about these enhancements? Fill out the poll on the screen. So are you happy? You like these changes? Are you neutral? You have no feelings about the change? Or you are sad. I do not like some of the changes that were made. Please let us know. And of course, if you are happy, neutral, or sad, please let us know. Don't feel like you need to hurt our feelings or help our feelings. Truly, your honest answers help. We are very hardened people with very thick shells. Right?
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you. I don't want to speak for everybody. All right, so let's give this poll a quick end. 3, 2, 1, and close. 70% of the people are happy. 30% of the people are, it's okay.
They're a little meh. All right.
Interestingly enough, we have some people that have attended a few of these webinars and say, remember our poll from the past meeting sales one, the room smells like cookies?
Mm-hmm.
They remember this. And we're saying that these changes smell like cookies.
Alrighty then.
Yeah. So, excellent questions here, guys. Last thing that we do want to point out before we do leave is we have one more poll. So, what did you think about the work that Kirsten and Chris and I have done today? Was it great? You had a good time and you learned something new? Was it okay? You had a decent time but learned nothing new? Or it was awful. You had a bad time. You learned nothing at all. It's okay if you did have an awful time. I just liked talking. And feel free to fill out that poll question. The more votes we get, the better these go for us back at home. So fill it out, fill it out, fill it out. All right. Close the poll in 3, 2, 1, and 98% of people said it was great. They learned something
Awesome.
new. 2% of people just enjoyed the experience, but they are totally up to speed on what we talked about.
Got it.
And nobody thought we were awful, which is a good sign.
That is good.
One question that we got from a fan, they said that, Kirsten, they think you're a hoot.
I'm a hoot?
Yes. So what is in
Okay.
your solo cup today?
Oh my gosh, maybe that. Okay, so a coworker brought this one because apparently this one looks like I'm having fun. It's really just water.
Yes. And I feel like everybody else is just saying the rollouts are going the way they should. All the other trainings are happening the way they expect them to. So excellent work, guys.
All right.
So last few points we do want to point out here, and I'll point out since I want to quickly tell you guys. Make sure to fill out the survey at the end of today's webinar. I'll learn how to count. 4. And if you fill those out, that also makes our life easier. With that said, as you can see, Kirsten's email is on there. My email is on there. Chris's is not.
I don't have an email.
He doesn't. Or a phone or anything. We lock him in.
It's amazing how he can develop all these amazing things, but we still haven't taught him Outlook. So, with that said, thank you guys for attending. Fill out the survey. Any last points you want to make?
Nope. My brain's dead.
All right. Have an excellent day, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.